I want to start by making a confession. I have lived two lives. Yes, you heard me right. And my story today is my journey between my first life and the second. I was born in a middle class Bengali family and I had a very tough childhood. Money for one was tight. I had to take tuitions to make ends meet. Many a times I walked out of restaurants because I couldn't afford the bill. And home was also tough, wasn't easy, dysfunctional at times. And as you can imagine, growing up like that, confidence didn't come naturally. My self-esteem was low. So that's where I started. That was my first life. And I used to look at all these people with cushy jobs, great homes, driving fancy cars, very secure lives, and I used to envy them. Never in my wildest dreams did I ever imagine that one day I would be looking at life from the same vantage point. So my story today is what happened between life 1 and life 2. And as I look at it, it syncs very well with the theme that we have today. It's a story about 3 words which align: head, heart, and hand. Head, all the learnings that I've had, the support that I've got from all the great people that I've worked with. Hand, my own desire to make my life better, resilience, adaptability, and I'll talk about it. And finally, a larger sense of purpose, which is really the heart, and that's what takes you the long distance. But life hasn't been linear, and that's why it's an art. And I've had my share of setbacks, I've had my share of failures, but I've learned most from failures. So all of you today, be prepared to fail. Let me start with my first lesson, and that lesson is about gratitude. People think of success, corporate life, as something which is inevitable because we are bright. I'll tell you that it is not. My life has been anything but that. I have oscillated between confidence and vulnerability all the time, and you will too. But as I stand here today, I am deeply grateful to all the people and all those situations which has taught me the real lessons in life. So my story really is about all these learnings which I had and my desire to take my life to a better place along with a sense of purpose. But it's been a journey which has been really back and forth. In fact, I took a demotion at one time to take care of a personal need. But gratitude is lesson number 1 for me, and that is what keeps me humble. What did I learn from my parents? From my mother, I learned the importance of being good, and that's the first person that I am. That's the first thing that people see in me wherever I go, personally, professionally. From my father, and we didn't have a silver spoon, so I learned the importance of doing well. So being good and doing well are my pivotal anchors, the 2 principles which has guided life, both personal and professional. I wanted to work in a company which was driven by performance, but also cared about how that performance came. Sync between my accordance in life, which is those principles of being good and doing well, with performance, with purpose. And all the decisions that have been taken and the leader that I am today is a result of those 2 principal anchors. Now, I meandered for a while. I didn't know what I wanted to do, honestly. I wanted to be an engineer, and then I wanted to be a fighter pilot and all those funny things. And then I made a career in finance. And as I think about our corporate world, and I've been at it for 35 years, and I can tell you, there is an arc of alignment there. And this topic has got me thinking deeply about what that arc is. And the more I think of it, I'm convinced that the alignment that you need to succeed, both as an individual, as a professional, and as an organization, is this alignment between your individual goals, passions, objectives, with functional goals and objectives, and ultimately and most importantly, with the organization's goals and objectives. And when we start our lives and when you start your careers, you will focus on individual performance, right? We all care about individual brilliance, how I am doing, how's my performance in the year. As you get to mid-level, you may be heading functions, and therefore you will be looking at functional excellence, how the function is doing. But all this doesn't matter, because to get to a senior leader, you need to deliver business objectives. So your job is to get the best out of individuals and functional teams to drive business results. There's no point. Corporate life is not an individual sport. It's not 100 meters, athletics. It is a team sport. Therefore, great leaders are able to galvanize individual brilliance and functional excellence and bring it for the benefit of the organization. Therefore, that's the arc of accordance in the professional world. And I also thought as a finance person, as a CFO, what is the job of finance? What is the job of a CFO? And then I realized the single truth, which has been my anchor in professional life, has given me the courage of conviction for all these years. If there was a shareholder, if there was an owner of the organization in the room, what would that owner and shareholder be thinking? Now, this powerful insight has helped and shaped my professional behavior over so many years. And there is a dilemma that we face sometimes, and I call it the shareholder value creation versus the boss is always right dilemma. And we tend to anchor towards the boss is always right initially. But in life, and particularly finance folks, you are the true representative of the shareholder of the company. Have that shareholder value creation mindset versus the boss is always right mindset. Now, I traveled quite a bit and I've worked in India, worked in other parts of the world, various teams. So let me talk about a few lessons I learned, which has shaped my journey between my first life and second, and it also helped in this arc of accordance. Lesson number 1, adaptability. I went to Dubai, my first job after about 10-15 years in India, and I was given a very diverse team. Somebody from Lebanon, somebody from Turkey, somebody from Guatemala, somebody from China, somebody from the UK, no Indians. And my Indian way of leading completely fell flat. I came in late, I expected people to stay late, nobody wanted to do that. My Turkish colleague wanted instructions on an email while I was comfortable on the phone. My Chinese colleague was quiet, culturally they are quiet, and it was up to me to give him the chance to speak up, and I didn't. And he had the best ideas. So I struggled and I was feeling like a victim and thinking, what am I doing wrong here? Then the realization dawned. The problem was not with the team, the problem was with me. And I was expecting everybody to adapt to my style, whereas what I should be really doing is understanding the specific needs of each individual and adapting my style to them. As I did that, the magic happened. You will lead diverse teams. I can't tell you the power of leading diverse teams and working in diverse teams. Diverse and inclusive cultures bring out the best professional results. So that's lesson number 1, adaptability. And it stayed with me all through my life. Lesson number 2 is resilience. But are these brilliant minds the best minds to succeed in professional and personal life? I don't think so. That's not the only criteria. I think resilience today is as important as brilliance. Just as they say culture eats strategy for breakfast, brilliance without resilience, surefire formula for failure. I went to Vietnam, a very new country, and within 10 days I faced a crisis. There was some software, there was a bug in the system and everything was down. And the head of IT, who used to report to me, a local Vietnamese, came up to me and said, boss, systems are down, please help me. And I said, you are the head of IT, I know nothing about technology, you please fix it. And he said, no boss, this has never happened before. You are the smart person who has come from India. Why don't you help me fix it? And I felt like a victim. I felt like a deer caught in the middle of the road, in the headlights of a car fast approaching. And then the CEO came in and said, factory is shut, sales is shut, and you're sitting on your chair, why don't you do something about it? I was frozen for 3 days, couldn't move, did nothing. And then the realization dawned, if I don't do anything about it, nobody is going to do anything about it. So I dialed a few of my colleagues in other companies, and they said, guess what, the systems are down in our place also. And as Dale Carnegie has said, I'm okay, I'm not okay, you're not okay is a better situation than I'm not okay, but everybody else is okay, right? So that gave me a little bit more confidence. Funny, but it gave me more confidence. And I moved from what I call the victim stage to the karna kya hai stage. What needs to be done? And then I realized it's an opportunity. If I can get the systems up faster than others, it's a competitive advantage. I'll delight everybody. Life will throw us a curved ball, and all of you a curved ball like this all the time. It's not about the curved ball. It's not about the falling down. It's not about the failure, but it's about what happens in your head when this is happening. And it's not easy. We are all human beings. Professional challenges are one thing. I can say personal challenges are even more daunting, right? So my request to all of you is, don't feel like a victim. Focus on what the learning is and focus on karna kya hai, what needs to be done. So that's lesson number 2, resilience. Lesson number 3 is what I learned working with the Japanese. It's a Zen Buddhist concept called Soshin. And it's about having a mind like a child, a beginner's mind. Now in the VUCA world that we live in today, I have seen knowledge will become a baggage. And as I move around my different roles in different parts of the world, I pride myself in having a lot of knowledge. When I went to Vietnam, I realized I shouldn't talk about what I've done in India for the first 6 months, just to get culturally, adapt myself to them, right? They're a very proud nation. So, this process of learning, unlearning, and relearning is so important to succeed in professional life. As we become senior leaders, we accumulate a lot of baggage in our head, and that baggage becomes a challenge. We are not inclusive. Imagine the world that's coming with AI and everything, right? You today and your knowledge today is not relevant for what you need to be tomorrow. So have this mind like a child, be a lifelong learner. Lesson number 4 is what I learned working with people. And life is about working with people. It's the human edge which really makes the difference. So every time I moved, I had different stakeholders, culturally different stakeholders. My credibility was zero. I had to build it from scratch. So I have this 30, 60, 90-day plan where I focus on learning the job. But more importantly, I focus on what I call building trust accounts with my stakeholders. Just like we deposit money into bank accounts, I deposited trust monies into the trust accounts. And what that basically means is spending time with your stakeholders. Firstly, making a list of who your stakeholders are. And then getting beyond the transactional relationship. Investing time, listening to them, understanding their perspective, really trying to find solutions. That makes a big difference, because as Stephen Covey said, things happen at the speed of trust in the corporate world. So building trust accounts is a surefire way of getting yourself accepted. Now, it's not easy, and we get into the hurly-burly of the job. Focus on the people part, focus on building trust. Now, you will not have high trust with all stakeholders. Don't expect perfection. 80-20 is good enough, right? And the 5th lesson, and I think the most powerful lesson for me, is what I call values, ethics, and integrity. We are who we are, and you are who you are in an empty room where nobody is watching you. And for me, integrity is 100% or nothing. And remember, life will always deal you 2 hands. A shorter, risk-fraught, red flag-fraught path, and a path which is doing things the right way. Always choose the path which is doing things the right way. Because in the long run, your credibility depends on it. And credibility is very hard to build. But it's like a glass ball. Breaks very quickly. Integrity, 100% or nothing. So those were a few lessons which have helped my arc of accordance over the years. Now, let me talk a little bit about the sense, the purpose, the heart. So I was happy, my head and my hand was doing well, I was doing professionally very well, but something was missing. In my mid-40s, I realized, am I working to live or am I living to work? And I realized, I'm not living to work. Work is just the means to an end. Now, as a kid growing up, I always loved words, but I got stuck in a career juggling numbers. So I decided to do something about it. I started writing. And people ask me, how are you able to do all this writing while holding down a job? My HR colleagues are wondering, is this guy really working? He's doing all sorts of other stuff. But, this is my greatest arc of accordance. It's better than medicine. It helps me bring my best self to work because it aligns my head, heart, and hand. And it's ultimately about what you really love. And careers are marathons. You will need to find that inner nourishment, whatever it is. Think about what made happy you when you were a kid. Maybe it was music. I don't know what it was, right? Maybe it's sports. Get back to it. There is no excuse for not pursuing your passion beyond work if you had one. It helps you stay balanced. Now, as I conclude, I have another confession to make. So far, life has always been about performance. And I am now embarking on a new phase of life which is going to be more about purpose. And going back to my first lesson, which is this deep feeling of gratitude, I now want to pay it forward and spend more time with folks like you, people who are starting their careers or in the mid-careers trying to shape their way forward. I'm going to work with them and help them find their path ahead. So that's my story, and that's my arc of accordance. I have found mine. I hope you find yours. Thank you.